Welcome to Creativity, the podcast where art and engineering collide. I'm your host, Jeremy S. Cook, and normally I introduce the guests that we have on for the time, but this time we don't have a guest, or rather we have a guest that we've had on several times before, Pat Regan, prolific maker, guy that acts like he's retired, so he says, and he decided to agree to co-host after a lengthy search on our part. He decided to co-host with me. So Pat, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing today, Jeremy?
Good. So basically, I did a couple of podcasts by myself, had some great guests, but just found that didn't quite have the including yourself, Pat, didn't quite have the same flow without a partner. So just kind of like how Top Gear, after they got rid of Jeremy Clarkson, had to find another direction. Now we're having the guy that came on several times. He's like the Matt LeBlanc of the Creativity podcast. If you've even watched Top Gear, I guess. So,
oh, Jeremy, I should have said, how you doing?
How you doing?
When you asked earlier.
Yeah. You ever watch that show, Episodes, where Matt's like trying to, it's pretty good show.
Absolutely. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it quite a lot.
Pretty good show. I understand you've got quite the number of watch suggestions for those that are bored. Is that?
Yeah, I've kind of gotten to the end of the end of the internet, the end of Netflix and YouTube, or Netflix and Hulu and all those things.
Maybe Pat, even though he's retired, or so he claims, he's got a little bit more of a handle on the internet culture than I do. So I think that'll be great to have him on here to, kind of show us which guests to have on. Maybe he'll have a little guidance on that. And when I email people and I say, hey, I do a podcast, it sounds a whole lot better. Would you like to come on the Creativity podcast with my partner and I, Matt Maker, or Pat Regan, that is. Then saying that, like, hey, I do some podcasts in my office, which is exactly what happens, but seems like it sounds a little bit more official. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think, Pat?
Well, they always told me that on your business card, if you own a small business, never put too important of a title on the business card. But this probably doesn't help you for this, though. But you don't want to be the CEO, because then when somebody tries to make a deal with you, you can never go back and say, well, I have to run that past my boss. Even if there is no boss, they don't know that there's no, but if you're VP of something, there's somebody you report to.
Yeah, that's a good point. Did you own your own business at one time? Is that
well, I had an LLC. I didn't make any money, though. I did a bad job.
Okay, well that's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. It was fun. I'll have to do it again sometime.
I guess background though, you're you worked in IT before. Is that right?
I did, and I made notes about this because I knew you might ask me, and instead of guessing when this stuff happened, I wrote down years in my notes here, so I would, I don't want to say something was 10 years ago when it was in 1992 or something.
Yeah, sure.
Feel stupid.
So when were you a IT professional?
Probably from the mid 90s. Yeah, I started my first job. For a month, I was a tape monkey on a mainframe.
Okay.
This little screen would pop up numbers, and you'd have to go. There were about 100,000, 200,000 tapes in the room on shelves, from 1 to 10,000 on each shelf, and you'd have to pick out the right tapes. And for 8 hours a day, that was what you had to do. It was very boring work. But then I
was it good exercise at least?
No, it wasn't. You didn't really walk all that far. It wasn't that big of a room. I mean, it was a big room, but the area we were in was fairly small.
Okay, so there was more than one tape monkey.
Oh, there were three of us. Yeah, there were three of us on each shift. Yeah,
so
all day, 24 hours a day. That thing was just eating tapes.
So eventually, did you get replaced by like actual monkeys or?
No, well, they had a robot already.
Oh,
some kind of silo, but not everything was. I guess they were converting things slowly, and they were moving out of that build. They were moving the mainframe out of that building anyway. So
you were like the backup to the robot.
Maybe, I don't know. I think the robot was attached to one mainframe and we were attached to another. Maybe, I don't know. It's been too long for me to quite remember how that worked.
Okay,
but don't tell my boss. But we used to, for fun. The tapes kind of stacked together. They had little interlocking pieces.
Okay,
and we would see how many we could carry at once.
How many
You know,
could you
because all the
carry?
tapes that come out, you'd have
Oh,
to carry them back to the shelves, and you get it out
so
as far.
how wide were these tapes, first of all?
They were, I would say, they were half the size of a Betamax tape.
Okay, for those that don't know what a
Third of a
Betamax,
VHS tape, maybe.
a third of the width or a third of the length.
Yeah, like you could probably put almost 3 of these into a. Yeah, they were almost as thick and about a third as half
Okay,
to a third as wide. I don't know.
think I understand. So it's basically like one of the tapes that you would put into a very old
A little
camcorder.
smaller than an 8-track, just a little.
Okay, so like the size of a cassette tape is what you're telling me.
Yeah, a little bigger, thicker,
Okay.
fatter,
So
heavier duty.
like oversized cassette tape. So how many of these could you carry at a time?
Do you know, that's the thing? I don't remember the numbers. I just know it was, you'd get your arms out as wide as you can. The farther you get your arms out, the harder it is to squeeze. And you have to put pressure to keep them from, flopping apart, to keep the.
Sure.
Yeah, there's an indent on the top and a protuberance on the bottom, but it's very shallow. So they stack and they won't tip over. But if you get too many, I mean, I had an accident, I squeezed them and it was.
So these were tapes with actual data on them?
No, let's say no.
Let's say no. Okay.
Nobody would be mad at me if they had no data on them.
So, okay. So, just if some tape ended up broken for some reason, it wasn't that obvious.
I was there. It could have been my fault, but you never know.
It was probably the other guy.
It is.
Okay, so you started your career as putting tapes in the tape reader, and then you moved on to something else, I guess.
Telephone, tech support stuff, and then server and network stuff. I worked for telephone companies a lot, and they like to call everybody an engineer. Everybody's just if you have a technical job, you're probably an engineer at a telephone company.
Nice. That's a far cry from like civil engineers, right? Which you have to have your.
It is.
Your PE, I guess.
I don't understand how they get away with it.
I mean, technically, I have a card somewhere that says EIT, which some people put on their business cards, but it's a engineer in training because I haven't gotten my professional engineering certificate.
You're not certified.
I'm not certified, which is always.
That means we can get a good deal if we hire you, right?
Yeah. It always made me slightly ashamed, but now I find out you actually take your certification test right in college now, so it would have been a lot easier if I was or maybe not. I don't know. Those
they
of
would
you
have made you do it. It just would have happened. And
those of you that are in college or just graduated or whatever, you go ahead and feel free to dispute me on the YouTube page or the SoundCloud notes or however kids communicate these days.
Well, you're more qualified than me because I only have 3 college credits. That's all I.
Okay. Well,
I've been told that they probably aren't valid anymore.
So what are your 3 credits in then?
Whatever the intro programming C class was, it was very basic.
Okay. Well, that's fine. Well, so you went through this progression, you tech support on the telephone, got your some college out of the way, and and then I guess you did something else at that point, right?
Well, the college was before I was a tape monkey.
Okay.
It was and then I worked and then I stopped work. I just said, I'm done doing this. And I said, well, I'll just do a little of this and a little of that for a while until I run out of money. And I figured I'd eventually end up working again.
Okay.
But we'll see.
Well,
I haven't gotten there yet.
How long ago was that you...
I didn't write that number down. I didn't know where to look that up. Probably... Well, my blog has been up for 11 years. And I started my blog a year or 2 after I'd stopped working.
Okay.
So...
And that's patsheads.com, right? And
yeah, patshead.com. Yeah, and I wrote this down. I thought this was good tidbits. I have over 500,000 words on patshead.com.
That's what, like 5-10 books, I guess. I
don't know. I've never written a book.
No. I mean, it seems like I've heard it's books about 10,000 words.
I think
that's not right.
That's like a novella or something. If it's, I bet 50,000 words is an average book.
Okay, yeah, that's not.
Should I Google that, or should we just
We'll just assume it's
pretend we're
50,000.
authoritative.
Let's just assume you've got several books worth of content on your blog, patshead.com, which originally
We're
was
already
just
up to 100,000 words on butterwhat.com.
oh, that's
too.
right. And patshead.com was originally just your head spinning around, right?
Yeah, I registered that domain probably around 1999 or 2000, and all I had was an animated GIF of my head spinning. That was the only thing that was there, and I needed an email address, so that was really what the domain was for.
Okay. Yeah, just
And
think, back then you could have registered something like Coca-Cola.com or not really, but
yeah, not quite, but close, and it wasn't that far off. Yeah.
yeah. So fast forward to today, you live in Texas, correct? Plano.
I do.
Plano, Texas, I believe.
Plano. Yeah, we're a suburb of Dallas.
And from what I understand, you like to ride your electric unicycle quite a bit. And
oh, that's so much fun.
And apparently, you told me, or maybe I think it was unicycle. You saw somebody in the car, reading the car, and they like slowed down and said, "Oh, it's that guy again."
No, there's lots of people walk around ever since the virus started. Just walking around. There's this lady. She must live in my neighborhood because I always see her near the street here. And I wave to everybody. It's just what I do.
Sure.
And
well, I don't.
But the third or fourth time I saw her, I heard her say to whoever she's talking to on the phone, she said, "Oh, there goes that guy again." And she's watching me. I'm like, so I must look weird riding an electric unicycle. There's at least 3 or 4 of us that ride electric unicycles around here, I've seen.
Really?
So many.
I wonder if those are that guy as well.
They must be to someone, right? Maybe not to her, but
you could start like a electric unicycle gang. It'd be kind of like a motorcycle gang, except lot less. Yeah, I don't think people would fear you as much. So you'd have to probably
no.
You'd probably have to really lay down the law.
Uh-oh, Jeremy, something went wrong with my.
Pat's been telling me about this great HDMI to USB capture card, which I think you can buy on Amazon for about $13-14. I got one of those myself, but I'm actually recording it on an old Logitech camera, and as you can see, my face is still on the screen.
Well, you know what happened, Jeremy? I'm thinking here.
What's up?
The HDMI is still capturing, but the camera ran out of battery. I forgot to plug it in.
Oh, and you got a new camera.
I'm not an expert.
You got a new camera.
Get a new camera.
And that's what, a Canon or Canon?
It's a Sony ZV-1. It's like a baby Alpha. It has built-in lens instead of it's a point and shoot.
Right.
Oh, I've got to come back soon here.
Oh,
hey, there
you are. I guess that being said, I guess we should we're going to make this kind of a shorter episode today. So I was thinking we could take a coffee break, then maybe come back and talk about some of the stuff we're working on, including I was going to talk a little bit about my home automation system that I've been kind of working on. I can't say I can give you a lot of details, but maybe we can kind of give a little overview. Pat's been running one since 2000.
I didn't write that down. I didn't know that was going to be on the test. I have all kinds of dates here.
For a couple of years at least. So we can kind of discuss some of the nuances of that. Anyway, we'll take our coffee break and we'll be back shortly. All right, so we're doing our coffee break right now, and usually it's just me solo, but today we got just one, only the co-host with you. Pat says no to that, but let's go ahead and give a shout out to our top 5 Patreons, including Brian Moses, Positive Waves, Old School DIY, that's at GFC62, and Stephen Booker. Also, Pat Regan is a Patreon, so
support us on Patreon.
So yeah, Pat patronizes the show as usual. But the cool thing is, if you ever want to become a Patreon, as you can see, we'll give our top 5 Patreons a shout out on the air. So, if nothing else, it's cheap advertising.
Yeah, well, any money helps. Right. That's, there's got to be a better way to say that. I've got to be better at this.
Yeah, no, this
is my first time. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Guys, so,
but anyway, beyond the money, it really just means a lot that you guys support us as far as supporting the show enough to say, okay, I'm going to give you money. That's quite the compliment. So thanks a lot, and enjoy.
You know what's just as good as a I almost said it. You know what's almost just as good as a Patreon subscription, Jeremy? Comments on the YouTube video or the SoundCloud.
Oh yeah, that's great too.
YouTube loves comments. It makes things
YouTube loves comments, and we love comments.
This is true.
All right. So anyway, thanks, and we'll get you back to your show. All right, welcome back. Thanks for listening to a little spiel about Patreon and such. And I guess before I forget about it, I want to make sure to give a shout out to Surrogate.tv and Stan. They actually sent me a shirt after being on the podcast, or after they were on the podcast, or he was on the podcast a while ago. So that was pretty awesome of them. They make arcade, basically playable. How could I even say it? Surrogate experience.
Physical arcade games.
So you're actually playing these games in real life, but over the internet. It's quite the concept to get your head around. But instead of playing a game online, you're actually playing a physical thing online. Pretty neat. So I'd say definitely check them out if you get a chance, or check out their podcast, hear what they're all about. So that being said, Pat, So what else are we going to talk about today?
Well, I have a question. I probably should have talked to you about this before I spring it on you. I'm curious about your laser cutter.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that. But so I bought a laser cutter recently. It's a Chinese laser cutter. I guess most of them are probably, some parts are probably out of China, at least in some part. But it's got a 28 by 20 bed. And I've just really been trying it out. I got it on Wednesday from eBay. Got it in. This guy basically delivers this crate to my garage, and I've got to figure out how to get it off the crate and set it up. And so far it's been really good for under $2,000. But, I've been having to figure out the ventilation system and everything else. And, just now I'm just kind of getting to the point where I'm a little bit more comfortable with it. So hopefully in an upcoming episode, we can do kind of a laser cutter episode, maybe have somebody on that knows a little bit more about it than me. Maybe talk about, have like an intro to laser cutters or something.
I mostly kind of want to know, you already have a CNC.
Right.
What do you want to, that's the why. I'm not why, but why?
No, I get it. I get your judgment. No, I guess my thought is, CNC, you had to strap everything down. You had to do some really complicated offsets, not complicated, but you have to figure out all the offsets for your cutting and stuff. Whereas it seems to me like a laser is a lot more somewhere in between a 3D printer and a CNC router, where you put your stuff on there, press the button, and it goes to work. I could be
and that kerf is so narrow.
Yeah, exactly.
The lasers. I measured it. I don't remember what it was, but it's narrow.
I could be a little bit wrong on that, but there's just some stuff that I'd like to make, and maybe make in a little bit more mass manufacture way, that I just don't think I can do with at least not with my CNC machine.
Yeah. Work holding is rough.
Right. Exactly. So I guess
depending on what you're cutting, I hear you.
Right. I mean, what I'm thinking of, and maybe we'll talk about this later, like in a further episode.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm actually making some money on it. Who knows? But hopefully I can just churn some of these things out. It involves a little bit of engraving, a little bit of cutting, yada, yada, yada. You have a product that you're working on, right?
I do. And I did a bad job because I pulled the power cable out of that to plug my camera in.
Oh, well, that's okay.
But we've got these little guys. This is the prototype.
They're called Ooberlights, and
Ooberlights with 2 O's, not a U.
2 O's.
But the idea is, this is look at how nice that focuses. This has this is about the size of a 5 1/4 inch drive bay in a PC.
Okay, and that's an array of LEDs, like addressable LEDs, like WS2812, I guess.
Yeah, like it's okay. We first call them neopixels, even though they're generic neopixels. Right. They're not made of fruit, but yeah, they're individually addressable, and we can run animations on them. And we're just about there. It has a USB port.
Okay,
and an ESP8266.
So it's just a circuit board with basically 2 circles of addressable LEDs that you can do your thing with, I guess.
Yeah, and the idea is, this got out of hand. My original idea was just to have 2 single rings of single color LEDs to put them in a drive bay and show things like spin them around for network speed and, light up a, from 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock to show that you have, what would it be, 30 or 40% of your disk used or something. But now we have all these LEDs, so we can go nuts with that. But the idea is we have it almost ready to do it. You can send JSON data over the USB serial to tell it which animation to run and how to configure it. So there'll be a little daemon on your server.
JSON is JavaScript object notation. Is that right?
That sounds right to me. I'm not gonna tell you you're wrong, because that does sound correct. It's basically just the data structures from JavaScript is what I always shorthand it.
So basically, you could, in theory, hook this thing up to a drive on your computer, plug it in, have it spin up whatever, show whatever thing your computer's doing, or anything else really.
Yeah. We're gonna have a little daemon that'll do the basic stuff like network speeds and disk utilization, disk speed, I/O, maybe light them up red when there's a big error, like a dead hard drive or something, stuff like that.
Sure. Well, it's funny. I'm pretty sure either one or two times ago when you came on the show, you were talking about this light, and I think you were talking to Max and I. It's like, yeah, you should send us a sample, whatever. But I guess it's just feature creep, right? These things kind of get out of control sometimes. Right?
They do. And my friend who designed the hardware, and he's working on the software now, I keep telling him I want to send. We have 10 boards. Well, we might have 9. I don't know. One was a dud, but I keep saying I want to start sending these out, and he's like, "I'm almost ready. I don't want you to send it out with this firmware yet. I want it to work a little bit better." Like, if I plug this in, it looks exactly like it did with the old firmware 2 months ago, but it's a whole new animation API that's on there. He's recreated the old animations in the new system. There's a compositor, so you can run an animation on top of an animation on top of an animation, so you could have the goofy. I shouldn't say my product is goofy. But there's one that's called Twinkle or Sparkle or something that just lights them up and shimmers them. And then you'd be able to put a clock over the top of that or something.
Well, that's awesome. So
I'm excited. Yeah. And you can do all this not just over the USB, but the ESP chip that controls it. You can send all the exact same JSON data over Wi-Fi.
Oh, well,
you can't yet. You can't yet, but there's no reason we're not going to be able to do that. That's pretty easy.
Well, that sounds awesome. So yeah, this is kind of stuff that Pat's into, obviously, besides.
I have no idea how to do any of this stuff. Okay. I was only an idea guy for this one. Okay.
But I guess one thing that we thought we'd talk about as far as like actually having some informational stuff today is I've been working on an home assistant, home automation system on Raspberry Pi. And Pat's actually had a home automation system running for, I guess, years, right? Like you said, it's based on OpenHab, correct?
We moved into this house 2 years ago, and I didn't set any of it back up, and I haven't gotten into it again yet. I had my home office in our old place automated. Like what I did, I used OpenHab, the old version, but I used the 1.0, 1.2, whatever it was, and now there's a 2.0, and it's very different. But I did stuff like I used the Android debug interface to the TV over here. Am I pointing the right way? To talk to the Amazon Fire TV, and I figured out how to watch it for videos, watch the debug output to find out when videos were playing, so I could dim the lights in the room when, you could go all over the Netflix interface, and as soon as you hit go on something, the lights would shut off. I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh, that is awesome. Yeah, it's my system. It's funny. I started it so well over a year ago, maybe even 2 years ago, whatever. I noticed that my garage door opener had a couple of contacts in it that were wired into a doorbell, and not doorbell, like a doorbell switch at the base of my garage. You press this, and it seemed to me like it opens or closes a contact, sends a signal to that, and then opens or closes the door. The only thing that was weird about it is that the light on the doorbell stays lit, so I don't really know how it could do that. But Nonetheless, my thinking was that if I put a relay to those two contacts, I could get it to open up. You know, after a little bit of experimentation, realized I could do that. And then the obvious solution was to put an ESP8266 chip on there with a relay, which, yeah, exactly. Same thing as that. So I got that working. And then, actually with a little bit of help from Brian Locke, who's been a guest on here before, actually got it to run a web server so I could log on to a certain address, local address when I'm on my home address, click, go up, go down, whatever. And it was fine. That worked fine for, months and months. Well, fast forward to maybe 2 months ago, I decided that I would buy my own. The story is going a little bit of a strange sidetrack, but I decided that I'd buy a new router for my home office, or a new cable modem, because I was thinking I could hook up 2 cable modems, have a direct hard line to my computer, and everything would be good. It'd be a little faster, yada yada yada. As that happened, I screwed something up, called the cable company. They gave me a new router with a new set of addresses, and ended up paying somebody to run the Ethernet line anyway, which was probably the right solution, because, man, he did a great job. Shout out to Atticrad. The guy did a great job here in Florida, but anyway, it just cost a little bit of money. It was worth it though, I think. All that being said, they gave me a new router, not Atticrad, but the cable company gave me a new router with new set of addresses, yada, yada, yada. So my garage door was no longer working with that. So a little more research, I realized you could just flash it with a system called Tasmota, which is just a ready-made solution for all this stuff, which is just fantastic. I mean, at the time, I thought what you had to do is actually plug it in, program it over the USB, or wire in your own connections. But as it turns out, you can just do it, flash it over the air with some crazy processes. I did actually do a story about that on embedded computing. I'll probably try to put a link to that somewhere. But
can you flash it over the air if you haven't already set it? Like when we did these Ooberlights, I had to flash them a certain way, and then I can start flashing them over Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Well,
like I had to use the serial port to do it the first time.
We'll get to that in a moment, I guess.
Sorry.
But just no, it's fine. But yeah, anyway, so I programmed the garage using Tasmota. Basically, you just flash this firmware on there. You can log on. It's just like almost automatic. It just puts up its own interface, whatever. Well, that being said, at that point, I decided to come up with a home automation system to have its own server or something. Tried OpenHAB, and I found that to be a little bit hard to work with. And then I tried Home Assistant, or HA as it's abbreviated, flashed it onto Raspberry Pi, and actually got it so that I could log on to the Raspberry Pi's Home Assistant interface, and it just has like a button that you press. Actually, one thing that was a little bit complicated though is that usually wants to be turned on and then off. You had to set up an option in Tasmota to actually make it do like a push toggle on off. Yeah.
Toggle's different. Toggle would be whatever it is, make it the other.
Yeah. So instead of making it so, when I first set it up,
you have to push it twice fast.
So I'm telling my wife, I'm like, yeah, you got to just press it and then press it. She's like, that doesn't seem quite right. And I'm like, well, and then, did a little more research, a little more looking into it. And the whole solution was you just flash it onto Tasmota and you can get it to do it that way. Cool thing is most of the stuff was just handled by Home Assistant automatically. If you set it
probably
up,
just finds Tasmota.
Yeah, like you set it up. I was using MQTT, which is some sort of messaging protocol. If you set something up called option 19, which is pretty. Is
that okay? Is that legal?
Yeah, option 19, which is yeah. You go into the console and you just say set option 19 or something, which people are like, oh, well, you just use the console, but it's a bit.
Is that a DHCP option? Is that what they?
No, it's through MQTT. So basically, like, whole thing is with MQTT, you're telling it to log on to a certain address where your Home Assistant is running, like the Raspberry Pi that's running my Home Assistant. And if you've got the MQTT stuff set up, if something changes with the IP address, it still refers back to your Home Assistant module, which had this running on a Raspberry Pi, set that up, flash it, whatever. And it once that was all set up, it just discovered that. And it was
magic.
Again, not quite automatic, but it's like, oh, we found a new device. Do you want to put it on the Lovelace interface? And you do that, and it's just, like you said, pretty much like magic at that point.
I know when my friend Brian installed Home Assistant a month or two ago, it just found dozens and dozens of things that it can talk to on his network. It was just crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And it just all shows right up.
It was like, the amazing thing was, I went through some work to actually get it to activate a fountain through a relay, and that has a bit of a GFCI problem at this point, but I think that's a little unrelated. But then just like magic, it just popped up with my Roku player, so I can mess with my kids, pause it, like when I come home on my bike ride or something. I did that all manually. I actually hooked it up, soldered headers on, and or connected with the USB port, flashed Tasmota onto it. I got to give a big shout out to Jason Brunk. I guess he goes by Cranky Coder. He told me about this thing called Tuya Convert, which actually lets you just use a Raspberry Pi and another ESP8266 board. And if you put things into pairing mode, it can actually just pair it just without actually hacking into it at all.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's incredible. So I set this up. So my sister-in-law, I think last Christmas, had given me a couple of smart lights, and they were, I guess I can show you.
And they have ESPs in them, probably.
Yeah, so these smart lights, let's see, the iView, I don't know, iView something or other. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool if I could just flash them with, my own firmware, because I don't want to, use their app necessarily.
And I sure don't want to open that light bulb, I don't think.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, well, fun. I'm not going to open the light bulb, and I'm not going to flash it. So, but then I realized you could do this. Basically, you just hook up this Tuya Convert, you put it into flashing mode by turning it on and off like 3 times, which, that's according to the directions. It's just normal flashing. You go through the Raspberry Pi interface, it just does it like magic and puts Tasmota on it. And,
that's fantastic.
Yeah, and once you've done that, then you can program with these things called templates that you get on, this guy, I think he calls himself Black Adder or something. It's got like a big template repository.
Okay.
You can download that and just load it in there, and it gives you like a way to control the lights. And I think there's 1,000 or maybe even thousands of them. Now, the unfortunate thing was that these iView 1000s did not, and I say did not, have a template, but now it does, because I downloaded another template for another smart light, set up my own template after a little bit of hacking around, and now I've got it to work. You can turn it on, turn it off, dim it, and even change the hue, so you can make it more of a yellow color. I'll go ahead and plug it in right now, and maybe I'll play with that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's cool. So I've got one at my desk, and then I've got one in my bedroom too. So if I'm going to bed, I can like turn the lights down and relax while I read, or I can turn it up a lot if I want to, I guess.
Brian has a whole mess of that Sonoff hardware, SONOFF.
Yeah. Okay.
And they're all flashable. You can put Tasmota on them. And we always, well, you probably used to have to. They have a 4-pin header. So, but you have to open them all up, connect the doodad. But if this works with those, holy crap, it'll be so much easier to convert all those old Sonoff switches to... Look at you turning yellow.
Yeah, so I guess I was just messing with this with my... if you're watching the video, I'm just messing with it now, turning my backlight more of a yellow and more of a white, which I look way different depending on...
It's true.
Depending on what's what, I guess. So... yeah, more of a bit of a neutral now. But yeah, I'm pretty sure you can do it. I'm pretty sure Sonoff was the I guess the most basic thing, because there's a Sonoff Basic that's really easy to flash, but you gotta solder headers on. The great thing is they make it easy to put the headers on, but if you don't even have to do that, even better.
They're a header just like I soldered into these already, but they're just like...
Yeah.
They're just through holes. And you don't have to solder anything to them. You could just put 4 pins, you put 4 DuPont cables through there, and if you just kind of lean them to the side, so they press up against the
Okay.
metal. So you can
if
do
you
an
got
assembly line. Plug it in, hit enter, wait, and then plug the next. But you have to take them all apart. You have to unscrew them and take the plastic off.
Or if you've got pogo pins, but I don't,
Yeah, I don't have pogo pins. I'm not that fancy.
Yeah, and pogo pins are these things that are just electrical connectors that literally are like pogo sticks for ants. So that's kind of the status of my system at this point. I got a couple lights on it, I got my garage, which is probably the most important thing. It's so convenient. Like if I go for a bike ride or something, come back and log on with my phone and yada, yada, yada. The garage comes up.
Yeah, when we come home from a bike ride, I still have to punch in the code on the outside door because I don't bring...
You have to punch in the code like a caveman?
I know, right? But yeah, when I go by myself, I just go out the front door with my wheel, but Chris keeps her e-bike in the garage, so we have to go out that way.
Okay. I see. So you just leave the door open. I guess your cat guards the house when you're gone?
Oh, no, I close the door.
Oh, you close it, right.
I do close it, when I get outside.
I almost never go out the front door. It's like why would you do that? But most people do.
And we keep the car out the front because Chris is afraid of the steep driveway. She doesn't want to park back there.
And Chris is your wife. Just
my wife.
Okay. Yeah.
It's true.
My wife. You see the No Borat movie?
I did not. Should I see it? Is it?
It was not as good as the first one as you might imagine, but it was
Yep.
It was what it was, I guess. Getting back to the home automation stuff, I guess the one thing, I don't know. It's amazing adding more and more. Oh, Arduino Nano, that's good.
This is my. This is not the one I actually used though. I have my first home automation was just these RF433 switches. You buy a 3-pack for $20, and they have a little remote with 2 buttons for each. But that was when Wi-Fi switches cost like $40, and Z-Wave was a whole ordeal. I said, well, I bet you can control these stupid things with an Arduino, and you can. My first 3 light bulbs were all controlled by this guy.
Oh, that's awesome. It's just an Arduino Nano on a breadboard. That's
and a tiny little. It sees my face. That's why.
It's a tiny 433 megahertz thingy. Yeah, it's amazing. It seems like things haven't changed that much, but then you actually look back like 5 years and like, wow, things have changed a lot.
It's so nice that the new hardware tells the server the status. It can query it and say, oh yeah, you're on or you're off. This has no idea. The software I have on the Nano, it just spams the on or the off switch like 10 times just to make sure it actually gets there.
That's great.
Because you don't know.
Well, it is amazing. Like you put more stuff on there, and it just feels like a superpower or something. It's like, wow, I can do this and more stuff. It's like it's addicting almost.
It is. A friend of mine. Oh, you tell me about that first before I get excited.
So the next thing I'm thinking about hoping to add is we had a bit of a water issue in one of our bathrooms, and so I'm like, okay, kind of close call, but I'm like, I'm not really comfortable with that. So I got these 3 sensors that actually will pick up if there's moisture on the ground, and they'll just make an alarm, whatever. But the cool thing is they all each have I believe a 433 megahertz or maybe a Zigbee or possibly Bluetooth connection to them. You connect them with the central hub, which I haven't connected yet, and it will, I guess send you an alert to an app or email you or something like that. Haven't hooked it up yet. Unfortunately, I don't see I don't quite know how to do it integrated into my home automation system.
But is that the central hub?
This is the central hub. So yeah.
So I was wondering how you get that in the wet spot on the floor.
Yeah, the central hub has as Pat's observing, it's got 2 prongs that you plug in to the outlet. So that's not really.
So you don't run an extension cord, and then when the circuit breaker trips.
The little sub sensors, they just have, I guess, batteries in them. Ultimately, I don't quite know how to integrate it with Home Assistant, so I'm a little hesitant to put the app on, but I probably will. But what I'd ultimately like to do is integrate it with Home Assistant so that if it gets a water alarm, then I have like an automated switch for my main water, It cuts it off,
Oh,
and
fantastic.
all of a sudden, no water damage, even if I'm not, or little water damage, even if I'm not home or something. So
I'm amazed at how few water shutoffs my house has.
is that a zero?
No, there is one. There's one in the kitchen. Well, there's one at every toilet. There's
Oh,
always
okay.
one at every
Yeah.
toilet. But there's one in the sink under the kitchen, so you can shut off the water to the fridge. So you can swap the fridge. But that's it. There are no other water shutoff valves anywhere inside the house. Just the one.
Yeah, no, it's quite the risk that we just kind of accept. But
yeah, I'm used to the house I grew up in has one every. They're everywhere. All over the basement, there are water shutoffs, and you got to wonder why the water's not flowing when somebody's shut them off. Is this why? Right before the furnace, before this, before that. Oh,
right. So I guess as of now, you don't have any home automation set up, but I guess your friend Brian, or I guess I've met him too. I guess we'll. And anyway,
sure, he can be your friend too. That's fine.
He's my friend too. I'm claiming him at this point, Brian. So, he's yeah. So, but he's working on quite a bit of interesting home automation stuff, right?
And I should know what some of that is. I've only seen he just keeps buying boxes of things, and I don't. I see them every time I go to his house. I'm like, oh, there's new stuff. I don't know what he's doing with them yet, but
yeah.
And the whole thing he's doing is because he has a switch to turn his lights on in the backyard. That the way it's set up, it's behind his giant sectional couch, so you can't get to it. You have to lean over everything, and he hates that. He wants that replaced.
So that was
he doesn't want to ever have to. That's the whole reason to automate the whole house, is so that you don't have to reach for that switch that's nowhere near the door ever again.
I know. It's interesting how this stuff starts. It's like well, I'd like the garage to come up more easily. It's like something fairly silly. And then, hundreds of hours and dollars later, you've got something that works, that does all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah, well, once you get the hub, everything else, adding more stuff becomes simple, right? So
no, I mean, this Raspberry Pi setup with home automation it's awesome. I mean, you just flash it with, what do you flash? What's the thing they use to flash stuff? The Bellina etcher?
Oh, I don't know. I just use DB, so I don't know.
Okay. Well, anyway, you flash it, you set up in a cabinet somewhere, and it just kind of does its thing. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And also I hardwired it, so that's probably a tiny bit faster, because that's the other thing I've been into these days. Over Ethernet. So.
Yep.
Hey, you were excited about something though, Pat, that I kind of cut you off.
Oh my God, I wasn't I?
You were.
Uh-oh. It had something to do with home automation. Crap. It's gone. It won't come back.
Okay.
Not in a timely fashion.
Yeah, that's fine. I've definitely been known to ramble on this show along with guests and stuff. But if you don't think it's going to come back to you, then that's fine too.
We should not worry about it.
We'll just cut our losses at this point.
Yep.
So yeah, anything else you want to say about home automation, or I guess yourself in general?
Well, home automation's fantastic. I told Brian to just collect all the data that you can from around the house. Anything that'll give your home automation system data, because you can use that data to automate things, and you'll never believe what you can come up with. Oh, I did a good job. I remembered what I was excited about.
Okay.
I've been complaining for years that I don't have a good way to tell if I have a little. Well, it's not little. It's a big honking recliner here in my office that you guys can't quite see. And it's a mess over there. I'm not aiming the camera over there.
I understand.
But I used to have this problem. I would pick up my little old ebook reader, and that is on my desk, this little old e-paper reader. And my home automation used to know I was in my office by whether the TV was running or if I'm at my desk using my computer. And that would all go silent, and my light would go off, and I'd be like, I'm reading here. What are you doing? I want to know. I need a way to know that I'm in that chair, and I didn't know how to. There's a lot of do-it-yourself hacks to sense chair occupancy, but they all look fragile. And my friend Mike found the best. There's a perfect. You can buy replacement airbag sensors for cars that go in the. They go between the cushion and the seat. They're little flat things with little membrane switches.
Huh.
And you just put that between the cushion and the in the inside the chair somewhere and wire it up to something. I mean, that's not wired to anything. You'd have to wire it to an ESP or something.
Nice.
But now I'm excited. Now I need to get back into home automation just because of that. That's all I need.
Yeah, you do. It's I don't know. It's just amazing. Like you have like one website, you pull it up on your phone, and you can just do all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah,
and, I think it's neat.
I like the automation part more than the remote control. The remote control's fine, but when you can start telling it to do things for you so you don't have to do them, I love that.
Yeah, I agree. That'd be maybe even better, but something that I haven't quite figured out. I'm still kind of getting into that. So
I understand.
You know, I'm not probably not as much of a programmer as you are. So I don't
like to claim to be a programmer. I get by, but
sure.
I would be a terrible professional.
Well, that's okay.
It is. I'm okay with that. I'm not upset about that.
Yeah, that's okay. So, yeah, I guess one other question I have for you before we get going. What's up with those headphones? Those are very, very red.
Aren't these very red? Well, these are some velour.
You guys can't see this on TV, but I mean, or on the radio podcast, obviously, but if you could picture, as Pat said, kind of a velour, like red, except red. Like with a sheen on it, not just bright. They're like shiny.
I won't be able to hear you for a second, Jeremy. I'll hold these.
Wow, that's actually, when you hold it up, it's not quite as, it's more like a felt material. I was thinking it was like a vinyl or something from
No, they're very, so there's this red, the really red part here that wraps around the mechanism that holds it in place. That's got to be vinyl. That feels like vinyl, but the fuzzy part, the comfortable part is soft.
So don't cut that on your laser cutter is what you're telling me.
Oh no, don't cut vinyl on your laser cutter.
Don't ever cut vinyl.
It'll ruin the lens and it will you'll have trouble with the breathing too.
Right. Yeah.
But these are crummy these are cheap Monoprice $15 headphones. They're nothing fancy.
Okay.
I broke my fancy headphones.
They are very red though. I guess you traded your
so red.
Yeah. So yeah. I guess we'll just say we'll be seeing a lot of Pat in the upcoming episodes. Hopefully we'll have some good guests coming up, and I can't say that Pat will be a good guest anymore because he'll be doing the interviews with me now. So that's pretty awesome.
I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. So anyway, if you enjoyed the episode, I should ask, what are you working on these days?
Oh, this is a good question. I should have been prepared for this. I feel like I haven't. I'm in the middle of a bunch of little projects. I have to cut some stuff on the CNC for Tindy today. Right. I'm running out of stock. I'm excited about the Ooberlights. Really excited about the Ooberlights. I have a lot of my projects require, testing that takes time. Like I love experimenting with carbon fiber quadcopter frames, and all my ideas, you've got to make a change and then go out and fly it and see when it breaks. Right. And then when it breaks, you see if the idea worked. But you have to crash a lot before it breaks. So, there's a month or two in between making a small change and then, finding out what to do next. I'm bummed out. I would love to be running my CNC at least once or twice a week. But my design work is such a bottleneck. It's all it's always waiting for me. Sure. Instead of the other way around.
Well, I guess if we want to see what you're up to, I guess you're on Twitter at Pat's Head, right? And then
Pat's Head Com.
Pat's Head Com. Okay.
Yeah, the Pat's Head guy. He hasn't tweeted in 20 years, and he drives a hearse, I think. And I'm very bummed out that I can't have his handle.
Yeah.
If any of you guys know Twitter, the guy at Twitter.
Yeah, and likewise on Twitter, I'm Jeremy at Jeremy S. Cook, and Instagram, somebody has my handle on Instagram, or the handle, and I don't think they've whatever you do on Instagram for quite a while. So last I checked. But yeah, I guess I've been working on, getting that laser cutter running and some various other things. So anyway, I guess we'll talk to you next time. I guess unless you had anything else to add, Pat.
Well, don't forget to like and subscribe and comment and things.
Yeah.
That's all appreciated.
Yeah, stuff like that's definitely appreciated. But yeah, so thanks so much for watching and listening. And we will talk to you next time.